some people have like what Eugene Peterson calls like a long obedience in the same direction. And so they live out of the fruit of just doing something for a long time, and they're really good at it. And I realized like, dude, so I was a pastor, then I was in like ed tech, and then I went to fintech, and now I'm writing books. Like, am I good at any of this stuff? Like, what's the through line of any of this stuff? So
welcome to Elevate Utah, Utah's #1 growth podcast. I'm Court Brady. I am Carlos Souza. And today we have Adam Cruz with us. Thanks for making the trip down here, Adam.
Good to see you guys.
I'm very excited for this one, though. I feel like it's going to be different from ones we've had because of the subject. And I love different. It's going to be awesome. So a quick intro on Adam. Adam is a former pastor turned Silicon Valley design strategist. Adam has also helped build quite a few successful ventures, including a very successful run with Intuit. And now Adam is working on the Healed Hustle, a company he founded to help entrepreneurs, mission-driven individuals have success without burning out.
Yeah.
How was that?
It's a journey. As is anything we start.
Can we, do you have a first question? If not, I'm super curious about the transition from pastor to Silicon Valley. My first question is, please, you are a pastor. Just tell us more about that.
Yeah. Who goes from pastor to tech? Kind of a weird journey. Honestly, even now, it's like this weird intersection. It's like, okay, I was like a decade in sort of a ministry background, and then a decade in tech and entrepreneurship. And what does this next decade look like? And what's that uniqueness? But we started I kind of grew up in church world and always wanted to help people. I enjoy just being around others. And so we wanted to create a different type of church that was unique. And so we picked the capital of Wyoming, just a growing area. I mean, tiny town. All of Wyoming is small. So, we were in Cheyenne, Wyoming, but the capital, and we planted in a movie theater and decided to just try to be different and serve in a different way. One of the things that we did that was interesting, like when we started, was before we even launched, we just wanted to serve. So we bought down the price of gas at several gas stations and just like gave back to the community, and didn't know how many people would come. And there was like lines down the road and police like having to navigate traffic. And we were like, dude, this is crazy. Anyway, so just trying to be different and serve in a different way. And we went from 0 to 2,000 in like 2 years.
Wow. So a congregation of 2,000?
It was fast.
That's incredible.
From just me and two other families. Like, let's do this. We're in.
I remember the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I thought a lot about the early days of like building up everything, but I missed it until just now that you have the Bible as a playbook.
Yeah.
But how entrepreneurial that journey is of building a congregation. Can you talk to a little bit about entrepreneurial overlaps?
Yeah, it's funny. There was this one memory I have when we were starting to grow, and we were growing fast, and it was like every week, like another 50, 100 people were showing up, and it's like, how do you steward this? And we had no systems or operations or anything to like steward any of this, and we were moving into a new facility. We had purchased a new facility, and moving in, and I remember all of us getting in a car. And this is like before I was in tech and understood like UX design and anything. And we get in a car, and we had 4 of us. So it was my buddy Jeff, myself, our video guy, and then a couple other staff all in the car, and we pretended to be a family. And we just drove. So we drove a couple miles away from the church, and we're like, let's pretend we're a family showing up to this church for the first time. And so we just driving out of the car, you're like, what are you thinking? And you're just like, well, who are these people? What is this church like? What is it called again? We're going to what church? And then you're fighting, because that's what you do on the way to church. So I was like,
Sunday
all right,
morning.
kids, fight, So they're fighting in the back, and we're laughing and like, dad's like, why are we going to church? Mom's like, we have to go to church, and kids are yelling. And so we're just kind of like going through a lot of that.
You're doing user journey before your customer journey was a thing.
I was like, well, it's funny. Yeah. Because when I got out of that, I was like, oh, I've been doing UX design for 10 years. Like, this is funny. But, so we turn the corner, and you're like, and we're taking notes. We're like, what are you thinking? You're like, well, where is this place? Is there clear signage? Can I see it? Can I find it? What am I expecting? What did I learn online to expect? Like, just all the stuff that you just don't think about, when you're planning a church. And to your point about the entrepreneur journey. So we like pull into the parking lot. Again, you're like, what are you thinking? And so it's like, man, if there's 1,500 people here, like, this is a lot of people in a parking lot. Like, am I way behind? We put the church in like a shopping center. It's kind of interesting, like cool space. So it's like, does it stand out? Do you see it? If I've got kids and I got to check them in, like, do I know where to go? Do I trust that I know where to go? So what was interesting is we counted how many touch points do you have before Jeff ever stands on the stage and delivers a sermon? And do any of those touch points determine whether or not you're coming back? And we realized, like, dude, there's like 9 potential bad experiences that could cause you to be like, not going here before you ever speak. So your sermon can be awesome. And if all of the experience up to that point is terrible, you're not coming back.
It's a funnel.
It's a funnel.
All these break-off points.
Dude, all of them. And so then the other question, well, then how do we make it the best experience? How do you put somebody in the parking lot that's their first greeter and just like, hey, welcome. It's your first time? Oh, you get front row parking. Let's put you up front, VIP. And then you walk in and you get a gift. And then you walk out, and we actually like placed people that would meet new people and remember their name. And then when they got out of the service, they would go find them. Court, it was great to see you. So it was just like, whoa, they remembered me. Like, just all those little like intentional touch points. But anyways, so I was like cutting my teeth on that stuff. And then you like get out and you realize, oh, I've been kind of studying UX design for a long time. But anyways, church world.
So you went to 2,000, an attendance of 2,000 in 2 years. Is that?
Say that again.
So you went, you guys achieved an attendance of 2,000 individuals in 2 years.
Yeah.
What would you say was this obsession with the experience? What was the biggest reason why you guys got to that level of success?
I mean, like anything, I don't know, man. It's half of it's timing, luck, and trying stuff and not knowing if you're doing it right. But I think just like we were just naturally curious. Just like I remember when it's like, how do we market that we're a new church? Like, what's somebody's experience of church? When you say church, like everybody has a different experience. Some people have terrible experiences. Some people are like, dude, I ain't going to church. Like you say that word, it comes with all kinds of different weight. And so I was like, man, how do you even like tell people? And I don't know if it's good or not, but I was like, dude, let's not just like put up a billboard that just says Element Church, we're here. So we just bought a domain. I think it was I couldn't buy don'tmissit.com. So I bought like don'tmissit.cc, which was a weird extension, but I bought don'tmissit.cc. And that's the only thing the billboard said is it had a date, October 7th. So don'tmissit.cc with a date, October 7th. And we put billboards all over town. And then we gave all of our people like these cards. And so they would like leave big tips and then just drop cards. And all it said was don't miss it. And so I just would monitor traffic and see if we were getting like people coming to the site. And they were coming. And we had so launch Sunday, I mean, it was like a few families of us. We had over 200 at launch. And we were like, this is awesome. This is weird. This is not, I mean, we were going to be happy with 20, 50, I don't know.
Right.
So we had a couple hundred. So I don't know. It's just like, I think just like trying stuff, and some things worked and some things didn't. We dropped 50,000 Easter eggs from a helicopter onto a football field. And cause I was like, dude, that'd be kind of fun. Like, let's just do what nobody's
bigger in Wyoming.
Well, it's just like, what is every boring church person doing for Easter. Let's do an Easter egg hunt. And it's like, no, let's drop 50,000 eggs. Like who wouldn't want to come to that on the football field? So we thought we had planned for 500 and had like, it was like right when we launched. So we're like, okay, we're kind of growing. Let's plan for 500. We had 2,500 come.
Oh,
and they were wrapped around the neighborhoods, like all the way around. So I don't know, dude. It was just trying stuff and just being creative and like, I don't know, dude. And then people came. So
I love that. I've been so fascinated with this intersection, this transformation between startup and scale up, and the things that work really well to get a company off the ground versus what works really well to get more of what's already working. You talked a little bit about what worked to get it started.
Yeah.
Can you talk about some of the things that worked at the first bit that stopped working or were counterproductive the further you went along?
That's it's a powerful thought because even the Easter egg drop, we tried it 3 years in a row. By the third time, we're like, this is done. Like it ran its course. It was like, it was a lot to pull off. And the, I think sometimes even too, like in the beginning, you're trying to drive awareness. Like we're here. And then you start to shift to like, how do we bring value? And it's like, I mean, we can drop Easter eggs. That's interesting. It drives awareness. But like, where does value, longevity, and like depth come from? That comes from like walking with people for a long time. So let's invest our like energy into like, what are we doing to like serve people like long term? So that was like some of those like, I don't want to call them gimmicks, but like, I don't know, things that we were doing to try to drive awareness. Like this had to shift a little bit. And then we just had to start getting, it's like you have, so we went to 3 campuses. So we had 3 campuses. Now you have like staff at all these campuses. I was a creative arts pastor. And so it's like, I'm leading teams, leading people. So you need systems to like operationalize all that. You can't just wing it now on a Saturday night. Like, we'll try this tomorrow. It's like, dude, everybody's got to know where they're at so that this other campus can replicate what we did at this campus. Because now you need another campus to be able to do it. And then you need another campus to be able to do it as well. So like, how do we operationalize that? So those are some of the shifts that were hard.
Were there any team members that were really good at the first bit, but not as good at the second bit, or vice versa?
Yeah, probably even me. Just like I love sort of the 0 to 1 journey and realize like, man, that next phase of operationalizing some of the creativity starts to feel, I don't know, like different. It's stifled in some ways because you're trying to think so systematically that you're sometimes even missing the point. And I think that's what kind of happened. And this is like probably some of, like it ended great. I had I left, still friends with everybody, all of that. But part of my journey in our story was as we scaled, the demand became so high and I wasn't healthy in my personal life. And so I didn't do a good job scaling in my personal life with the demands of what it took to build the teams and operations. And so that led to a lot of, near collapse of my marriage and my life and personally and all that, and led ultimately to an exit. And so if
you were given an advice to somebody that's going to go through a similar process, what would you say to optimize for characteristic traits or personalities early stage? And what would you say you wish you would have done different late stage?
Early stage, I think it's just about trying things, not being afraid to try stuff, not being afraid to think differently, and just I think having an approach of bringing value. Like I just want to bring value to whoever it is that I'm serving, whatever avatar you're serving. Like just don't focus so much on growth. Focus on value, and then growth will happen as a byproduct of that. On what I wish I would have done in the end is I wish I would have just enjoyed the journey more, because it's a long road, you know? And I think for me, it was like, when you're driving at that pace for so long, it's like I'm doing things that aren't sustainable. I'm working at a pace that isn't sustainable. And so I just, I wish I would have just like learned more of a, it's interesting, I guess, now that you asked that question, because like I wanted to bring value when we first started, but then you almost lose, you like lose that. Once it's like moving and the machine's going, you like forget that you're like in this for others and for people and to bring value. Because now you're just like, you're serving the machine, you're serving the thing. And I think that's where it just gets tricky for leaders is when it just becomes about that, then it's like, dude, we're losing our soul. We're losing our heart. We're losing who we are. I was losing all of that. And that's what.
So many founders, I think, are mission driven. If you're starting a church, it's obviously mission driven. How do you balance being a mission driven founder and saying this is a good thing, it deserves my whole heart, but also having a family and kids and other responsibilities?
Dude, that's the mystery. I mean, that's so much of what I'm thinking about right now, but I struggled with like, is ambition and sustainability actually possible as a mission driven person? Because as a mission driven person, you're all in. You're like, it doesn't even have to be church. It can be business. It can be nonprofit. It can be anything. Like you're just that sort of Enneagram 3. I don't know if you guys are Enneagram guys, but like Enneagram 3 sort of wired for achievement, success driven. This thing has to work and I'll do whatever it takes to make it work. And so the challenge is like to remember that your identity isn't in that. You can do that. It's fun. It's cool. It's interesting, but that's not who you are. And I think it takes a while to like realize that, and pain. Enough pain will help you realize that.
Tell us about your transition, unless you have any more questions.
That was going to be my question. I'd love to hear more about that transition from pastor to Silicon Valley.
Yeah. So, I resigned and
from Wyoming to San Francisco.
Yeah, that's
maybe
I don't know which one is bigger.
Than pastor to Silicon Valley.
Yes, there couldn't be a more extreme polar opposite storyline of Wyoming to San Francisco, and but we came through Boise, so it was like an interesting like setup for Bay Area. But yeah, I mean, I resigned, and we were just like, what do we do now? We were in a terrible place in our marriage. We did that for 10 years. Literally, honestly, like just like trying to process what's next, having a heart to start something new, not really sure what that should look like, and wanting to build something, but not feeling like I should do that in vocational church work anymore. That's not like what I'm supposed to do this next assignment. And so we moved to Boise. I sold my house on Facebook in 2 days. Just like I as a designer by trade, so I was like, these guys are just making flyers and putting them on the little things out front. I can do that. So I made flyer and posted on Facebook and sold my house. And so we sold our house, loaded up a U-Haul and moved to Boise. Wow. And a buddy of mine called and had an idea for a new company and didn't quite know how to bring it to market or bring it to scale, even build it, just an idea. And, I really felt like, man, I'm not your guy. Like I came out of church work, it's like, I'm not your guy. Anyways, he called a couple days later and it's like, dude, you're the guy. You're we want you to help us. And I was like, man, okay. So I was like, tell me a little bit more about the idea. And so, I kind of caught some vision for it. And then I helped build, just a little prototype for Zimi, and we were like, okay, this is kind of interesting. And so we just lived off of our savings for a year and tried to see if we could build an MVP and see if we could like get some interest and traction. And again, we were just like scrappy. So my co-founder buddy was a teacher at a school. I was like, we were serving a student audience. I was like, so would take your app, take this design to your classroom. And so he would get, iterations with the kids right there in the classroom. And we would do all these cycles. And so we landed our first college partner, Texas Christian University in Fort Worth, Texas.
That was your first client?
Yep.
That's not a small first client.
No. And it was so I do have I guess a little bit of a story there. It was 1 year of trying to like find market fit. We raised $1 million seed round through friends and family. So we raised $1 million, and it was like, okay, we're not spending any money on marketing. Where do all these admissions reps? Because we were penetrating the transition from high school into college and helping kids get seen for college outside of grades and test scores. And we wanted to build a product that allowed them to use images, videos, and documents to showcase their passions and then get seen for college. And so we were like, will any college like even consider this on an admissions platform? And so we didn't spend any money on marketing. We just found out, where do all these admissions reps go get their continuing education? And then we found all these weird conferences called the ACAC conferences. And so they're regional. So they'll have like the Texas one will be TACAC and like the, San Diego one will be SACAC. And so we just followed all these ACAC conferences all over the United States. And we would show up and these businesses would stand behind their booths with their flyers, these two sales guys they sent out. We're like, dude, we're not going to do that. So we would sponsor the happy hour, and we created this character called Ginger Fro. And we had this afro, and we would sponsor the dances. And we would just party with these admissions reps, and they were just like, and so we went to the first one, and we told the hotel host, we're going to need a bigger room because so many people are interested in what we're doing. So can you get us a bigger conference breakout room? And he's like, okay, who are you? And so we get this, he gets us a big room at this hotel, and it probably seats a couple hundred people. And the breakout, everybody gets released to the breakouts, and 0 people came.
No.
0 people came. We went to like 14 of them that summer. And then the national one was actually in San Diego. It's called NACAC. The national one was like 4 months later, and it was standing room only. And we had filled the entire room. So we had to just go to all these things, build all this energy, and then we were able to create all this interest. So then Texas Christian University was our first college partner. And they're a little bit like followers mentality in college, in university. So they're all like, what's Texas Christian University doing? They had 25,000 applicants in 1 year, in one admission cycle. So we're like, that's 25,000 users in one admission cycle from one school. How do we go to get 200 more of these every year? And then every year your base is building by their entire admissions class. So we got to 25 college partnerships that year, and then raised a $6 million Series A from Blue Run, and then moved the company to the Bay Area. So that's how I ended up in Silicon Valley, and then scaled from there. So company's still going. They're doing awesome. But that's how I got into tech.
That's amazing. Cool. That's the greatest story.
Okay, so you have a ballroom rented out, supposed to seat a couple hundred people, 0 people show up.
Yeah.
So many founders stop right then. What's your advice to a founder that goes through that exact situation?
Yeah, you can't fall in love with your solution. And that's sort of classic like products idea, but you really just can't fall in love with your solution. You may not be, you've got to have conviction around the problem. So fall in love with the problem and follow it. Follow all the questions of the problem, and it'll lead to the right solution. And so I think for us, it was just like, there was enough conviction that this is a problem in modern day transition into secondary education. And so, we need to fix this. And so it's just, but what do admissions reps need? And so we just started talking to them. We just started building friendships. It's like, we're not trying to convert you. We want to learn from you. So what do you guys do? And we realized like, okay, so the deans of admissions at a school are 60 years old. They just sign all the admissions papers. They are not the ones deciding who goes. We found out through just building relationships is that the readers are like 28, 30, 35, and they all admitted to going on Instagram and Twitter and looking up all these kids to see if they would be a fit for their school. And I was like, that's what we're doing. We're helping with fit and culture. And so it's like learning to talk their language. And I think that's what kind of, it's like, it was super deflating because it's embarrassing too. Like you asked for a bigger room and the guy's looking over the corner, you know, he's the maintenance guy that opened up that bigger room and he's like, bigger room, huh? You know? And so you kind of got to swallow the pride and just be curious and learn from the people you're serving.
You know, your journey is making me think of, I work with a lot of young people, and it's so interesting because you went from being a pastor, then now you transitioned to Silicon Valley, and then we're going to get to what you're working on today. But I have such a hard time sometimes helping them. For example, someone is in sales today, and then we go and talk to them. Hey, your skill set is better suited for ops. Let's transition you there. But they're so like, no, I'm going to spend the rest of my life in sales, or I'm going to spend the rest of my life in this. They're so like married to that path that they created in their minds that they can't let themselves pivot, or switch to something that's better suited for them. And it just seems like you've done that. Like you've done that with, from transition to transition. I'd love if you could just touch on that a little bit. It's because it seems like you found what your core is, your trait, your skill, and then you've been able to bring that to different industries and different roles, let's say.
It's interesting because it also comes with a lot of insecurity, to be honest. Like some people have like what Eugene Peterson calls like a long obedience in the same direction. And so they live out of the fruit of just doing something for a long time and they're really good at it. And I realized like, dude, so I was a pastor, then I was in like ed tech, and then I went to fintech, and now I'm writing books. Like, am I good at any of this stuff? Like, what's the through line of any of this stuff? So it's an interesting thing I struggle with, even like, I think I'm just naturally like curious enough to want to try things. And probably the through line is that I'm just not afraid of the 0 to 1. I like the try to take ambiguous things and like make sense of them, and that can be applied to, I don't know, honestly, any industry, any topic. But it also comes with insecurity of like, dude, my musician buddy is like an amazing musician because he's just been doing music his whole life, and I get jealous of that sometimes. Or, the different business guys that have like just been to your point, like just been a sales guy, and they're just so good at that. And so in my broken identity, I probably get insecure about that. And I would hope that I'm learning to like just leverage it and just be like, okay, I'm not good at that, but you are. So I just want to get around people that are like better than I am, and just let's go do stuff. And so I don't know. I don't know if I have a good answer for it. It's like letting go of the identity, and that can be really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I thought I'd be a pastor the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to be pastor the rest of my life. Went through a weird season of like, I'm a failure. My life doesn't matter. And then I was tech guy and like founder and like builder. And I loved that. But I felt like I was always trying to get back to my former life, and realized that's not a chapter I am ever going to go back to vocationally. But it doesn't mean that I won't go back to it in some sense. It's just the shape will look different. And so here I am now writing stuff. So I don't know. It's weird.
So what advice would you give to someone who is in their early 20s and they have this idea that they're going to be in that profession for the rest of their lives?
I mean, stay curious, like bring value and be the best version of yourself at this moment in this time. And don't worry about, I don't know what 10 years is going to look like. A lot happened in 10 years. relationships change. You meet my buddy Adam calling me and saying, let's go start a company. Like that stuff is like, it just like, who knows where you'll be, but just bring value and you'll get phone calls. Bring value and you'll get opportunity. You know, just look for opportunities to bring value.
I love that because then the industry that you're in or the role that you have kind of becomes secondary.
Yeah, it does.
Your primary responsibility is to create value, right, to the
That's
world.
good.
I love that. Adam, I'm very curious to kind of jumping from your experience building Zimi and then Intuit. When was the first time or a wake up moment that you had where you were noticing that ambition was leading you in the wrong direction?
Oh man, lots of moments. The pinnacle for me was, so I decided to leave Zimi, joined another startup, wanted to work at scale. So I wanted to look at what I'd been on the 0 to 1 journey a few times now. So I wanted to understand what does it look like to go from 1 to 10. And so I joined a startup that was just, they were growing like 100% year over year for 3 years and just fast growing company. And so I was like, I want to like work at scale. And so joined them, and within 3 months or 6 months, we were acquired by Intuit. So then I went from like startup world for, I don't know, 10, 15 years to like biggest company in the world, and thinking I was like, I'll stay for a year. Ended up staying nearly 10 and leading product teams into it. And, but on our journey into it, coming back, my wife, we were driving the U-Haul over, and she pulled over the car and was crying. And I knew she was feeling stuff. And I said, what's going on? And she just really sensed that we were going to, walk through a healing season in our life. We'd been driving for 15 years and this new season was going to be different. And I was kind of terrified of like what that was going to be and what that meant. And are we going to make it through? And unfortunately, there was a lot of things in my first decade at Element, planting the church, that created a lot of damage in my marriage. But we just weren't dealing with it. You're just ignoring it. It'll all take care of itself. Sort of classic kind of like entrepreneur founder, like, I don't know, it'll work out somehow, mindset. And, but coming to the face-to-face reality where my wife and I were realizing like, I don't know if we're going to stay married. And is all of this like interesting, like church planter, tech startup, you know, working into it, like it's all a cool story, but underneath it all is like shallow and broken and a mess. I was a mess personally with addictions and that was wreaking havoc in my marriage. And I didn't know if we were going to make it. So that was kind of the first moment. It was in 2017 where I was like kind of coming face to face with like, what does it look like to be, I'm ambitious. I enjoy starting things and launching things, but can we really actually sustain? And coming to kind of face to face with that was hard.
Why is building a business so harmful on family relationships, and what can entrepreneurs do about it?
We're addicted to it. I don't know. Like, I think, especially in our hustle culture, but I just, there's an identity attached to the thing I'm doing. And what's deeper is I'm striving for significance, and I'm actually striving for validation, and I'm actually striving for importance, whatever. There's things in us that are driving that. And so business is just the vehicle. It like that brings the validation, brings the significance, especially if you're successful. And most of us that are, even the most broken will actually be the most successful because the drive is so hard. So you'll actually figure it out. You'll figure out how to scale and grow and be big. And so the reason it's hard on families is because it becomes this obsession. And it's not that you're like evil and I hate my family and I want to, that's not how people live. But the choices and obsessions we make every day in not learning how to slow down, not having healthy boundaries, not understanding like even identity work and just like, I love what I'm doing, but this is not who I am, like that kind of stuff. And until you deal with that, you just drive. And so, and then the family is the sacrifice of that because they don't validate you. They don't pay you anything, And so it's like you walk into the company and everybody's like, Carlos is here, Court's here. I walking home, my son's like, Dad, can we play football? Like he's not like, Adam Cruz is here. It's like,
oh, it's just Dad.
Yeah, it was just Dad. Let's play football. So it's like those interesting identity things that I want to spend more time at the thing that validates me.
You said the word identity 6 times in this conversation. Can you help me understand, how do you decouple an entrepreneur's identity and still allow them to keep their ambition? Yeah,
that's I think probably one of the roots of it all is however you think about identity. For me, it's in my faith. So my identity, it comes beyond me. My identity isn't something I create. And so what happens is it's like this from to picture. When I'm unhealthy and my identity is rooted in my success or what I do, the from is I do this thing so that I matter. The to is I matter, so I do this thing. And that mindset shift changes everything, because one is I'm doing this thing so I'm important, so whatever your word is, so that I matter, so that I have significance. Versus the other is my identity is already rooted in something. It should be beyond yourself. For me, it's a faith. And out of that, I do the things that I do. But for so long, I lived out of the other side of that. And so the identity, it's never satisfied. You just always chasing and striving, which left me feeling like, okay, then is ambition bad? I don't know. Like, should I not have ambition?
What's your answer? Is ambition bad?
I don't think ambition's bad. I think we're designed to and wired to create and to build. But I think we have to be intentional. I think ambition without intentionality, it'll lead to all the things I experienced, just this chaos and the sabotage of my family and my personal life. But ambition with intentionality can go a different direction.
I was going to ask about that. What's the first step in wanting and desire to decouple those two things? I recently, just over the weekend, I went to an event where it was a group of over 100 people and people that I've known I met about 10 years ago, right? 9 years ago. And then I show up and I'm fairly young to be a CEO, right? So I'm 27, I'm there. And all of a sudden, every conversation I'm in, everyone's like, dude, you're a CEO. You're the CEO of well, tell me more about that. And that's the last thing I want to talk about. I just want to be Carlos. I just want to be for those 2-3 hours, I don't want to talk about that. Yeah. I just want to be, bro, remember those memories that we have from 10 years ago. Wow. But I feel like a lot of people, and even myself at times, we don't want to decouple that because it's so validating. Absolutely. It must feel amazing, right? You show up and everyone wants to how did you get there? What did you do? But I feel like most people, if I don't know if it's most, but some people wouldn't want to decouple those things. So I'd love to hear just your perspective on why you should decouple. And I think you talked a little bit about that already because of the consequences. And what is that first step? What does that first step look like?
That first step unfortunately, is usually pain, because none of us change without pain. I hate going to the doctor, but it's like when I don't go to the doctor unless I have pain. When I have pain, then I want the pain to be resolved. And so it is a challenge, because it's like I'm inviting people to care before you should care, almost like, why should you care before it's too late? And if you don't care before it's too late, this is the path that you're headed towards. And so how do you care way sooner than that? And one of the unfortunately, again, just the first step is like, usually I can't sleep, anxiety through the roof, like pace that's unsustainable. If we're very honest, like belief systems that aren't healthy, for some, the belief systems are like, just like, despair and like, I can't do this. The other side of the belief system, the other side of the spectrum is just like, I have what it takes. I'll do this at all costs. Like, and sort of almost like an arrogance. And, unfortunately though, it's usually pain. And until I realize like, I can't keep going, for me, it was like, my only option is I keep going. I'm going to lose everything that matters most, or I learn to slow down and being more intentional, not stopping, not having ambition, because I don't think that's the answer. But like, how do I get more intentional with this so I can sustain for the long haul? And, unfortunately, I won't go into all their story, because it's their story to tell, and that story will take shape when it needs to. But the startup I joined in Boise, the founder, ended his life, and it was tragic and devastating. And that was a catalyst even for some of the things I'm writing about now, is like, why does it keep ending like this? We'll wake up tomorrow, there'll be another story, and there'll be another story, and there'll be a lot of stories we won't read, but I just like, man, what's the answer? Is ambition bad? What is the relationship? And so I think it's just like, unfortunately, it's pain that causes us to kind of take that first step. But that first step is just being willing to be honest and take inventory on our life and what's working, what's not.
So that was your segue into what you do now. You left Intuit.
Yeah.
And you started this. Tell us about what your company does, the mission, problem it solves. Who's your ICP, ideal customer profile?
Yeah. So, I mean, the avatar we're serving is mission-driven, high-achieving leaders. And leaders could be founders, could be entrepreneurs, could be pastors. Obviously, my background is both of those things. So I can appreciate the challenges of building faith communities. I can appreciate the challenges of building startups. And so but usually these people are high achievers, they're driven to make an impact. And so, the premise of kind of what we started to think about on this question of, is ambition and sustainability actually possible, was, if you can launch, but you can't last, who cares? I just started to like think about that. If cause our world obsesses over like launching, and we kind of really don't care if you can't last. In fact, we oddly celebrate when people fall, or like we're not learning from that.
All the most famous people made it young, died when they were 30.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the Marilyn Monroes,
yeah,
the Elvises. He's a little older, but
yeah,
they're the heroes of society. They get attention.
What is that?
It's so fascinating. They're the anomaly.
Yeah, because they're like 27. There's like that weird number age where they all. I don't know. What do you got? Like, what have you experienced in your journey of that?
Oh, bro, Can I get vulnerable?
Yeah.
Can I be your ICP?
Yeah.
For a second. I was on a call yesterday, and are you an Ayn Rand fan? She wrote Atlas Shrugged and Fountainhead. And
I'm not familiar.
she writes these books where she creates what in her mind would be the perfect human. And she places ambition and value creation over all else, everything else, family relationships. And she kind of segments the world into creators and leeches, and then creates these universes that exist, what the world would be like if all in Atlas Shrugged, this is going to spoil the end for you, but she takes all of the successful people that have ever lived, and one of them, not that have ever lived, that are living, and one of them, and goes and starts his own community. His name's John Galt. So if you ever see that bumper sticker that says, "Who is John Galt?" It's referring to the builders, the prime movers, the creators. And then he slowly starts recruiting all of the top performers from all of these other businesses. And the premise is you have the creators, and then you have everyone else who's leeching, who's politicking, who's sucking on the teat of those that are actually creating value in the world. And she says, okay, she has this character say, okay, let's see what happens when we decouple all the producers versus the leeches.
Wow.
And the society crumbles and all. So that's the book, Atlas Shrugged. And I resonate when I read, it's sitting right there actually. Her other book, Fountainhead. When I read that, I resonate so deeply with I'm going to be successful at the cost of all else, and I'm going to produce quality for the purity and sake of quality, and all of that is so important. And that's my natural born hierarchy. When I turned 31 and Aspen got to the point where it was pushing off livable cash and the team was running the company, that line in Pirates of the Caribbean where Captain Barbossa says that food turns to ash in his mouth. Like that was like I got to this finish line. No one was there to celebrate. Like, who cares? And it was so unsatiating, yet I had ran so hard for so long to get there. So I had a conversation yesterday with someone who I was thinking about interviewing to hire as a business coach. And in that conversation, I said, I understand from a logical perspective that if I don't have a great relationship with my wife and my kids 18 years from now or 15 years from now, none of this is going to be worth it.
Yeah, man, that's good.
However, my intrinsic motivation and my drive, the things that bring me joy right now are 100% tied to value creation and the pursuit of the next thing. Yeah. And so when I'm spending time with my family, it's not generally authentic of like, hey, I want to be here with my family. It's, I need to show up now because I know this is going to be an investment in my future, which is keeping me from being the best version of a dad that I can be, which brings a ton of guilt of like, what the heck are you doing with all of the blessings that you have in life that you've somehow weaseled into being burdens? So I would love to be a case study for your system.
Absolutely.
Preach.
Man, it's real. It's familiar for me. It's like, that's my drive. And it's like, until I don't know what for you, why the phone call, why the question, why, like, what's the, reframe for you of like, what was the realization that's like, in 18 years, I'm not going to have my family, but that's important today. Why is it important today all of a sudden?
I'm an observer, and I've been blessed to be in this group called the Entrepreneurs Organization. Oh, yeah. And it's all founders over $1 million in revenue, no advice, just experience share. So you'll say the problem you have, and they won't say, here's how to solve it. They'll say, I had a similar problem. Here's what I did, and here was the result. So you just get to learn without any judgment placed on the person asking the question or presenting the problem. And I've presented the problem enough times to say, hey, here's my issue. I don't, my kids listen to this. Well, if they ever do, I don't love being a dad. And that's so wild because our first baby, she got to 3 days before being born and we lost her. Wow. And we worked so hard to get kids here and to think, man, how is it like, how am I able to have such an awful thought that when that pops up that I wouldn't want to be a dad. What a crazy thought for how hard I've worked to create this life. And seeing all these entrepreneurs and saying like, hey, I'm struggling with this, and them talking about their experiences of some saying, yeah, I felt the same thing. So I doubled down on work and I exited for X amount of money of 9 figures.
Yeah.
But then I had 2 more divorces.
Yeah.
And my kids don't like me. And then, and it's the only thing that matters. And the flip side of, I felt the same way. And I went down the path of investing in my kids, and it was hard. It's exhausting, but I'm so grateful that I have great relationships because it's the only thing that matters.
Wow.
So I've been able to observe it from their experiences.
That's beautiful.
But if that hadn't have happened, I probably would continue going down the route without any awareness and end up in the 2 divorces and bad relationships with my kids.
And most do. No, not most do. A lot do. A lot. Some even is like, it's worth it. And so you have to decide, is it worth it? Is that what you want? Is success at all costs worth it? And I remember I had a similar story I had just moved to San Francisco. We were in Menlo Park. We had just signed our $6 million Series A. We were at a coffee shop just down the street from the VC firm that gave us our Series A. And I walked in, we were all 30 punks, startup punks, like thinking we just like, God's gift to the world, you're just so dumb. And you're walking around. I meet this guy, and we're in Menlo Park. We go to this coffee shop, run into this guy. And one of our team members knew this guy, and he was in his mid to late 60s. And we were just moved there. And so I remember I was kind of already on this journey a little bit because I had just ended my time at Element, was fried to a crisp. My marriage was suffering. I did not want to launch Zemi the same way I launched a church. And so I was kind of committed to I was reading a book called Addicted to Busy, and I was just like thinking about some of this stuff. And I remember asking him, I said, what advice do you have for us? And he looked at me, he said, Adam, just learn to enjoy the journey. He said, I sold 4 companies. I think he had 4 exits, really wealthy guy. He said, I'm on my 4th marriage and all of my kids hate me. They want nothing to do with me. And he said, I'd give all of it away to have them back. It's not worth it. So just learn to enjoy the journey, have fun. And I remember I said the words to him. I said, you should write a book about your story. And he said, nobody'd read that book. And I just remember, this was 10 years ago. I was so frustrated because I was like, because we're all reading the other books. Like, we're reading the book, how to 10X your sales team and 10X your marketing team and 10X is better than 2X and, all the 10X this, 10X that. And I said those, and
screw Grant Cardone. Can we just say that?
No.
Thanks for all the books.
Yeah, thanks for all the books
sold us and all the help.
Oh my gosh,
making successful.
We're just reading those books, and not that he will, but then those guys all burn out, but then they never write the book. And I'm like, we need your story in the world. And he was convinced nobody would read the book. And I remember I was meeting with a strategist out in Nashville as I had resigned from Intuit and was starting out on a totally different journey. I was going to basically build a business, building business, basically helping founders launch companies because of my journey of going from 0 to 1. And then I shared my story. And this guy said, Adam, I think you're supposed to write the book. And so I was like, what? So I started to write, and in 2 weeks, I wrote 20,000 words of this new book, and I created 8 pillars of a framework, and it just like started coming out. And we were meeting, and he's like, man, all this came out in like 4 weeks. I was like, no, this is like 20 years of like, it's just, I don't know. It's just what I've learned and what I've done. But I resonate with that so much. And I just remember that guy's advice, like, don't forsake enjoying the journey in the pursuit of success at all costs. And so, but it's a challenge every day. And I that's why I think it's like, it's intentionality at the end of the day. It's just like, we're super intentional in our businesses. I think that's what's kind of funny is like, intentionality is not a word you struggle with when you think about your company. You know every stat about every stat. We do, we do SWOT analysis on whether our SWOT analysis is working. So we're constantly like auditing and the metrics, and we care about our OKRs, and we're driving, conversion ratios, and we're like constantly obsessing. But we can't pay attention to if our kid knows us, or if our marriage is healthy, or if we are healthy. I met a guy who had a heart attack the other day. He's like, it's all because of my stress in my business. And I killed my body. I have a friend that has lupus. And he's like, it's totally tied to my journey of being an entrepreneur. And I was like, dude, so I just started asking this question. Why are we doing what we're doing? Why are any of us doing what we're doing? What is it? We're supposed to create. We're supposed to make value and build. But why are you doing what you do? And I think in my most unhealthy way seasons, my why was rooted in proving that I was that God would love me. I wanted to earn God's love, which is ironic because here I was in a church, planting a church, telling people about God's love, but I didn't believe that he loved me. But that was what was driving me. Well, you get really successful because you start working 80, 90, 100 hours a week because you're trying to prove that God should love you while you're building his church. And so this thing, and then it starts to work. So then it validates that you're lovable, but the whole thing's built on my performance. And then you realize, like, God, when I stepped outside of that, I was sitting in I had a recording studio. I was a musician in my old life, and like just lost. Like when I resigned, I was like, I don't even know who I am outside of this, and I've experienced that. Carlos, your question earlier about like these transitions of identity, of like, I've had to learn that hard because I realized, man, so much of my identity is rooted in this.
You talked just now about just your why during those periods, right? And as you're saying that, you reminded me one of the notes I took preparing for this. You actually wrote this. You don't have to change what you do. It's about changing why you do it, which drives how you do it.
Yeah.
Can you just double click on that? Double click on that one.
Well, I think the question for me was, and maybe for some of you listening, for you guys in telling your story a little bit, like a lot of times when I started to question, like, is the what wrong? Is what I'm doing wrong? Does what I'm doing need to change? And I think my journey has showed me that I can have the right what with the wrong why, and that will lead to an unsustainable how. And the flow is that, like, you can be a pastor of a church, which is a very noble and honorable thing, but your why is very toxic and broken, which will make you a terrible pastor. And we have plenty of use cases of that happening in our society. So, but you'll also be a terrible boss, and you'll also be a terrible husband, and you'll also, like, you can have the right what you're doing is good. It's just why you're doing it is unhealed. And so when that is the case, and not that why you're doing it is evil. I'm not trying to paint that picture. I'm just talking about just broken. We don't have language for why I'm doing it. For me, I was hit in my face when I was a kid by a family figure, and ironically enough, 6 years later, my youth pastor hit me in my face as a lesson to the youth kids on a bus on a youth trip. Two events, authority figures hit me in my face as a lesson. That to me, like, it just rooted and anchored a message in me that I was bad. So then everywhere I went, it was like, well, then prove that you're good. So then everywhere I went, I just chased approval that I was good. And it works. You get the approval and you do prove to people that you're good. And then it's not sustainable because how now that's driving all that why is like, I mean, it's sacrificing yourself. It's sacrificing your health. It's obsessing over success. So
can I ask, could I bring a New Testament verse into this?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Also, I want to know, like, if someone were in your program or in your training or like cohort, what would that look like for them? But I also want to ask this question. There's a verse that says, whosoever shall lose his life for my sake shall find it.
Yes.
I spent a lot of time on self-discovery. And the coach that I've had for the last 2.5 years, I let him know yesterday, hey, like, this has been amazing. I think I'm going to take a hiatus. This coach I was interviewing said, like, hey, you'd be a great coach, but I just think I need some time.
Yeah.
What is the appropriate path to figure out your identity? Is it to lose yourself in the pursuit of something that's beyond yourself, or is it to go deep into who you are as a person?
Man, I think that's a challenging verse, because it's how I lived so much of the beginning of my life. Was like, it's interesting. Sorry, I'm gonna rabbit trail and then maybe come back
Please.
to it, but because I love that you brought that up, because it's so much of what it drove me, because it's like, I'm sacrificing, I'm giving everything, I'm losing myself for the sake of the mission. This is good. So many people are out there selfish and building their own kingdoms, and I'm willing to lay my life down and lose it. And it's like, so I really struggled, because it's like, this is what you're supposed to do. So taking care of yourself is like, that's not what you're supposed to do. Like, you lay your life down for the sake of others. And I realized, I guess in my journey, is like, no, that was just complete selfishness. Like, I was just that whole mindset. Tim Keller says, why do you really serve the poor? Like, if you really think about it, why do you really serve the poor? It's actually more about you, not because you really are actually trying to help the poor. And I was like, dude, what is that? So then what is like laying your life down? And then where is identity? And for me, I feel like the journey, the journey for me, and this is my journey, I don't know if it's everybody's, but for me, it was actually stepping off the stage. It was like, I'm not going to find my identity in continuing to drive and drive and drive and drive. I have to actually remove myself from achievement and like not achieve, not build. And then like, who am I? Who am I if I never do that? And that's where for me, like, my identity comes from, who I am as a created person, and finding value in my identity as a dad. Cause I'm like, I would much rather go hang out and build companies and build things than, one more, Barbie play date or whatever, whatever the thing is. But, starting to value my identity there and prioritize it intentionally, as if like, I care about this as a part of who I am, my kids, my family, my life, my longevity, whether I do this thing or not. And so for me, it was just the art of getting to the root of what is actually driving. And usually it comes from something, not for everybody. And it's not like some people, it's trauma, it's childhood trauma. For others, it's just an addiction to just identity or perception management and those things. But for others, it's something that happened in their childhood and that's created their drive. And that just has to get, like, walking through the process of naming that and putting language around it, like, helps me realize, like, man, okay. So now, even though I'm like helping guys walk through stuff, I still walk through this stuff every day. I'm like, man, what's the drive right now? What am I? I'm either loving what I'm doing or I'm being driven from something. So I don't know if that answers your question, but almost like stepping off the stage for me was a big process in finding my identity.
You said earlier that the most broken entrepreneurs create the most successful companies. Steve Jobs, the Elon Musks of the world.
Yeah.
You have the Warren Buffetts, the guys that tap dance to work, but I don't think most are in that category. Do you think that's if founders, I'll figure out how to word the question. If founders operate from a place of authentic identity, will their companies be more successful or less?
Have you guys read the book Make Time with Jake Knapp, guys from Google that created Gmail? Mm-hmm. He has this interesting line. He says, because somebody asked him the same question, because he was talking about how he's like, man, I would do it all differently if I could go back, because they're similar journeys, burnout and all this stuff. He said, the interview asked him like, yeah, but would we have what we have today had you not? Like, we would probably not have what you have because of, he's like, I actually think it would be better. I think it'd be bigger. It would be more effective. It would bring more value. So it was kind of, I was just surprised by his answer of like, actually, I think it'd be better. I think we would have done more had I been like healthier. It's this deception that I can manage all of this, and that somehow is just, it's like par for the course. It's what it takes. If you want to build great things, you have to live like this at this pace. This is the only way to success. And so a lot of guys, I have this illustration. It's called the ambition trap, or I call it the ambition trap. And it's just a visual, but I was like, Lance Armstrong was another one that was interesting to me. It's like peaked out, like amazing biker, and then has this major fallout. And I remember when his first public interview, he said, I've never felt more free than right now. You're losing everything. You're exposed. You're losing your reputation, and now you feel free. And the interesting thing in that is like when the mission is small, and I just have this little like bar graph, like when the mission is small, we're all starting out, we're starting companies, like our motivation is small too. Like we don't probably even have language. When I was 20, I had no language for any of this. Like I don't have language for my motivation. I want to build stuff and do cool stuff. And then, but what happens is success just makes you a bigger whatever you already are. So you get successful, the motivation doesn't stay small. The motivation to like validate and earn success and be important is just now at scale. It's like this big now. And then you get a lot of success, and your company is really big, you made a lot of money or whatever. That motivation is not staying small. That motivation's this big. Until you heal that motivation, it's driving it's in the driver's seat. And so the ambition trap happens when the founder gets too big, or the company gets too big, and they just feel trapped. Nobody could know who I am now. If you really knew who I am, you would not like me. You would hate me. You would, whatever. I'd lose everything. If you really knew, as a pastor of a church with an addiction, you're starting to make all these compromises in your behavior, like nobody can know now. So you just ride it out. I'm gonna be honest now, like it's too big. This thing's and so we convince ourselves that we'll just ride it out. So you just ride it out. And, so I don't know if that answers your question of like, they would be successful or not. But it's an interesting trap with how motivation and success and the scale of a company drives us. And so I guess my thought is, my question to myself, my question to people I walk next to is like, it's what we started with, Carlos, is like, how do you care earlier? How do you care at the beginning so that this thing can last and actually be sustainable? Because again, if you can launch but you can't last, who cares? And then, okay, you sold a multi-million-dollar company and made a lot of money, but my friend's dead now. So I don't know, what's that? And maybe you don't do as much of that, or you do as much of that. I don't know, but you're healthy. Like that's the end goal, is that you have a sustainable future.
So your care earlier. This is like free for me to go through your course right now, right? Because we're
yeah, exactly. Yes.
So I care right now.
Yeah.
I would really love to know what's the most potent first step I could take to coming from a place. There's something you said earlier, which is you're coming from here instead of trying to get. Can you say that?
The from to,
yeah.
Like no. I'm coming. I do this work so that I matter. From that to I matter, so I do this work.
So, what's the most potent first step I could take to make that transition in my life?
audit your ambition. And the way you audit your ambition is just to, there's like kind of 7 core areas that you just take inventory in. How's my pace? How are my beliefs? How are my behaviors? Behaviors being like, am I compromising or am I living out of integrity? How is my relationships with others? So my connection. How are my routines and how is my perspective? And you just take inventory on those things. I have an assessment you can take. It's 35 questions. Just gives you kind of a score and a sense of like, where am I in some of those things? But I always tell people it's like the first thing any of us do, even in business. Like one of the companies I was in, we were trying to turn it around because it was plummeting. The revenue was down. Customer feedback was tanking. And it's like, what needs to happen? It was like the first thing that needs to happen is we just need to audit, like what's going on. Let's get a sense of what's bleeding. Why is it bleeding? What is working? What isn't working? Let's just take inventory. And I think the same is true for us in our life is like, what's working, what's broken, what's missing, and learning to sort of take that inventory.
So I can do that for myself. I can do that for my business. In my business, once I find things that are broken, it's really easy for me to hire or fire or change. In my personal life, it's really difficult to, at least it's been for me up to this point, really difficult to change my value stack and my motivation drivers. So once I perform the audit and say, yeah, I value based on my behavior these things over these things.
Yeah.
But I know that these things over here lead to long-term joy and are more closely aligned with how I would like to live.
Yeah,
but don't fit in with what my natural disposition is. How do you change that?
How do you change that? Do you have language for what's driving that at all? Like the value system that you have today, you know this is important for joy. This is what gives you joy, but you also value, to your words, like this other side of the house or business right now. What do you have any language for what?
Sure. My natural disposition is to value accomplishment over everything else.
Yeah.
What I realize is more closely correlated with long-term joy and in my quiet moments where I could actually think through it.
Yeah.
Relationships, specifically the ones with my wife and my kids and then my closest friends, I would put above accomplishment.
Yeah.
But my natural disposition is to put accomplishment significantly higher than relationships.
And what is important about accomplishment for you?
There's a becoming that is associated with accomplishment, and there's a value creation that's associated with accomplishment that I don't get when my kid's not Barbies yet, but he used that example.
Yeah. Yeah. And where, like, do you have peace?
No.
And do you want peace? Or is it worth it?
I think that's the hard part is my sister asked me once, like, Court, are you happy? It's like, Morgan, I'm not solving for happiness. Like, what kind of a question is that? I'm solving for value creation.
Yeah. And I would just, what's driving the value creation for you? What does that mean to achieve?
What does it mean to achieve and what is driving it?
Yeah.
What is driving it is probably this deep-rooted belief that ties value creation to my value as a human.
Mm-hmm.
And what it means is to improve the lives of other people.
Mm-hmm. How would you feel if you didn't achieve?
Probably
a terrible question for a guy wired completely
like
for
achievement. Lost a game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I played tennis growing up.
Yeah.
I've lost plenty of matches.
Yeah.
That feeling sucks.
Yeah. So it feels like losing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And losing means what about who you are?
Not a good tennis player.
Yeah.
I didn't practice hard enough.
Yeah. So it starts to come back to our identity and who we are, who we think we are. And at the end of the day, it's on me.
Okay, so let's assume, well, I've made it fairly clear that my identity is tied to accomplishment. How do you decouple that? And I have the biggest fear that if I decouple that, I will lose that brokenness that built a multi-million-dollar company is going to be gone.
Yes. That's terrifying.
Terrifying.
Absolutely terrifying.
Where's that dog, that killer instinct if I start solving for peace?
Yeah, am I just going to be lazy now? So I'm just going to go do nothing and be lazy, and
I will be the future version the future version of me will be what my prior version of me despised.
yes. And why did you despise that?
Oh, because it was lazy and soft and introspective. Oh my gosh, if you would have said enjoy the journey to me, I would have spit my water in that guy's face.
Yeah.
If I was sitting down in Silicon Valley, I'd be like,
Yeah. No, that's real. And I feel like a lot of us have no language for that. We're just driven. Because I want to achieve, I want to create. And I think the danger, because I went on this 10-year journey. I used to think about ambition and sustainability like a line. And the line was, you can either be ambitious or you can be sustainable. And sustainable people were despised. Like, I despised that side, similar to what you're exactly what you're saying. It's like, okay, so you have a line. Some people are over here, some people are over
when
here.
you say sustainable, you mean content?
I mean, in my mind, it was just like, I don't want a divorce. I don't want to not have my kids. I want a family, and I want to achieve great things. I want to build cool companies, and I have what it takes, the grit to do hard things and drive. But I also want my family. And so the sustainability was more around like tied to the things that matter most to me, like family and all that, but that were getting ignored. And so it's just like I would watch these dads that like were really great dads and very like had these sustainable lives and just very faithful and stable and seemed like they had peace. But they weren't interesting. They had boring jobs. They weren't building anything.
And when we get invaded, they're not going to be hard enough to go and take out the intruders.
Yeah, exactly. We need the chords here that are going to help us like actually, accomplish and drive. So it's like, it was this line. And I was just like, so when I came out of like my season at Element and my season at Zemi, and I was just like, I started to kind of swing. And I hated it because I just got depressed. It was just this deep depression.
To what?
Like this ultra sustainability. Okay, sustainability is my top priority. And being healthy and all that's my top priority. Let go of ambition. And it just creates depression because there's no purpose and there's no like reason to exist and live. And so then I was just like, I started to like wonder, like, is there a different relationship between ambition and sustainability? And I don't know if this is good or not, but it's the picture that I started painting. I created a quadrant, and on the vertical axis was ambition, and on the y-axis was sustainability. And when you have a low degree of ambition and a low degree of sustainability, you have laziness. You have like a lack of purpose. When you have a high degree of sustainability and a low degree of ambition, that just starts to look like comfort. Like you're just living out of a pretty stable, comfortable life. Most of my life was a high degree of ambition and a low degree of sustainability. And that was just how I live. That's how I build. That's how I live my life. And so then this fourth quadrant was like, okay, what's a high degree of ambition and a high degree of sustainability look like? And that's what I created, the Healed Hustle. And what I realized is it's just intentionality. It's just choosing to understand what's driving me and having language for it and being able to actually turn the dial off. Most people say they can. I can manage all this. You can't manage it. It's chaos. And so being able to actually like understand how to be present in relationships and learn the gift of being present while also bringing value and building things. It's not a formula. And it's interesting because even the visual I created was these like gears in a circle. And I didn't do this intentionally. It's kind of by accident, but it's a continuum. And I don't know how you guys are wired, but I just want to graduate. I want to take the course and I want to get out and I want to do the thing.
I'm so anxious right now saying, dude, what's the unlock? We've identified the problem. I want to go be a dad and be stoked about being a dad. Tell me how.
Yeah. It's a continuum. It's a continuum of doing these things. And there's 8 things. And so to answer your question without going into all the detail, but it's like, okay, I've taken inventory. I've learned the art of pausing with purpose. So I'm being intentional about my pace. And pausing doesn't mean stopping. I say pause because there are times when you need to quit your job, and there's times when you just need to be intentional about how you're taking time to yourself. Very different extremes. But regardless, take inventory, pause with purpose, heal your why. Which is I would say I'm not a counselor and I'm not pretending to be. I'm not even pretending to offer that to you. I just invite you into a conversation of questions you may or may not have ever asked yourself of like, when was the earliest memory that I ever felt shame or embarrassment? For me, it was being hit by a family member and then hit by a youth pastor in front of all my people that like defined and ingrained in me. And that wasn't the only thing that was driving me, but it was a thing. Or this time I tried something and I failed. Like, what are the drivers? Name them. And then the 4th step is to reframe your motivation. And so that is where I introduced the from to. And it's hard. It's hard work of like walking through it, but it's like, what would it look like? What are the things that I'm driven by right now? And naming what's driving it. So even right now, I want to be a successful author. I want to write this book. I want to release it. I want it to be successful. In an unhealed motivation is because I want to have credibility. I want to be taken seriously and have authority and be important. A healed motivation would just be like, there's a lot of people out there in the world that are hurting in their ambition. Entrepreneurs like you and I just trying to figure it out, and I want to help them. And that's like allowing myself to like come alongside, but I don't have to own it. I'm not owning that anymore. I'm owning that. It's like I have to become the New York Times bestseller or whatever the drive is, whatever the motivation or the goal or ambition is. The final four steps are what I call like practices. And it's how do you actually prioritize connection? And so I draw 2 circles. The first inner circle is the people closest to you. These are the classic, like laying on my deathbed, who's going to matter most questions. And it's like, of course, it's going to be my kids and my family. And then the outer circle is like my acquaintances and my business partners and all the things. And we spend so much of our energy and best effort and best time and sharpest thinking with that outer circle and just give leftovers to that inner circle because they don't pay me. They don't validate me. They don't tell me I'm important. The outer circle tells me I'm very important and validates me and gives me money. And so I want to spend more time there. And so learning to like move between those circles with intentionality and prioritize the requirement to have a successful marriage, just like it's going to take sacrifice to build a good company. It's going to take sacrifice to build a good marriage. It's going to take sacrifice to scale a company from 1 to 10. It's going to take sacrifice and intentionality to grow a kid that still loves you at 20 years old. So it's all intentionality. And then the next step is actually recharge routines. And I ask a lot of guys like you and I, like, what do you do to recharge? I used to say, I still say, I listen to podcasts. What kind of podcast? Oh, this business podcast. That's not recharge. That is just more like, it's not bad. Listen to those. Listen to this podcast. That's still about achievement. Like, when do you actually recharge? Literally, it has nothing to do with your effort. You're just receiving. And it's sort of the classic, like, airline, I guess, like when you're on the plane and they say, put the oxygen on your mask. on your face first before you put it on your kids. It's like, dude, if we're not putting the oxygen on our face, like we can't lead effectively. And so actually, like, I started asking myself, like, what do I like? And I was like, I literally don't know. I don't know. What do you mean? What do I like? I don't know. I like business. I like launching things. I'll do that. You know, it's like, what do I like? I don't know. Where do you want to eat? What would be good? I don't know. Like, I started realizing, man, I have like no like profile or language for even just what gives me life. So I moved my phone away from my bed. This is just a very detailed thing. You can cut this out if this is not helpful, but I moved my phone away from my bed because I realized like the first thing I do when I wake up is I get on my phone and I start going down that road of whatever that road is. And I had a goal of touching the grass before I opened my phone, and very specific grass. So I live next to a nature preserve that's like about a 15-minute walk. And so my goal is every morning to wake up and go touch the grass at the nature preserve, stare at the mountains, and just remind myself that I don't have to be amazing. I don't have to be the one that has it all figured out. Grounds me. And then I can start my day and I can get on my phone or whatever I need to do. That's what recharges me. It has nothing to do with my effort. Because even in running, I like to run sometimes. I'm not in that shape right now, but I like to run. It's like even in running, I still have objectives because it's like, I run to accomplish. So anyways, then the last two are how do you actually redefine success? So we obsess over OKRs. We obsess over money. Money's a driver for us. Status is a driver for us. How do we actually do some work on redefining what does a successful life mean for you when you're later on? And then the last step is to just, it's a process of practicing them. So anyways, that's a long-winded way of saying that it's just a journey of having language. And at one moment it might be, you walk through this for the first time in the Healed Hustle, and it's like this deep, strenuous journey maybe. But over time, it's just a way. It's a new way of operating. It's a new way of thinking, not void of ambition, but just intentionality.
I'm sitting here and I'm just fascinated by the things that you're saying, Adam, and I keep thinking, and I hope you don't take this personal, but I'm thinking, do I believe this? You know,
right.
Do I believe that that's possible? Because I've been taught my entire life that you can only achieve greatness without sustainability, without, I think what the world, what others, maybe most people use balance for sustainability. And I actually went through stuff and I never found the word balance anywhere. But I think, and what you're saying is, it is possible, right? Because we grow up and we watch Michael Jordan and Michael Jackson. Everything that's great just seems to be broken. That underneath, that they lost everything on the way. And I'm here sitting, and I actually have a to-do item. I'm gonna look for people who have achieved greatness without losing those things that matter.
That's beautiful. Love that.
So I'm like, I want to go on this journey of there has to be, right?
Yeah.
If it is possible, there has to be examples out there.
Yeah.
And why don't we glorify those examples as well as those that are broken? But I think the world just likes the extremes and
man, it's good. I remember seeing a picture of Tom Brady when he won his 7th Super Bowl. I think he has 7 or 8.
Tampa, 7.
7, yeah, because he beat the Chiefs, and it makes him mad. We'll never get that back. But there was a picture of him, and he was holding up his hands like this, and him and his wife had just gotten divorced, and it was not a post he made. It was a post somebody else made, and it may not be reflective of how the entire world thinks, but I just hear it more often than not. And the picture was him with his 7 rings, holding them like that. And the caption on the post was like, "Do you think he cares where she's at?" and everybody was like, heck no. I mean, the commentary was like, no. And I think therein lies the tension.
Right.
Like the dude did what no man has ever done in history. There's Michael Jordan hugging the trophy at the last dance, but saying that his pain with his dad drove it all. And he's on his, like, it's a very fascinating tension. This is very fun to flash. It's very fun to achieve in whatever version our version of that is. But at the cost of what?
And most, if not all of those guys are saying at the end, I don't have
What matters
that
most.
love from my kids, or I don't have my dad, or that's amazing.
Yeah.
This has been such a good podcast, Adam.
I knew it was going to be different, and I loved it. Thanks, Adam.
Is there anything you wish we would have asked that we haven't?
Not at all. I just tried to be in the moment today, and this has been fun chatting with you guys, and thanks for you sharing your stories as well. And
How can people find your company?
you can go to thehealedhustle.com, and we have an assessment right there you can take. So
We'll put the link on the description of the video.
Cool.
Last question for you.
Yeah.
We usually ask what advice you'd give to a prior version of yourself. We've talked a lot about our prior versions of ourselves. So change it slightly. If you were to sit across from 3 years from now, Adam, what do you think he would tell you?
What do you think he would say to me today?
Yeah.
If I was sitting across from him today?
Mm-hmm. He's got 3 years on you.
Yeah, he's got 3 years. You don't throw anything at me, but I think I would hope that he would say, just enjoy the journey. Like have a blast, chase it, do it, keep going. Maybe I'll end with one story.
Yeah. Please.
I was facing the darkest kind of moment in my journey, wondering if my wife and I were going to make it, wondering if I should still be alive, wanting to take some action on that, and was really struggling with mental health and all of these questions. And we were left the Bay Area. So we moved from San Francisco back to Boise. And the day we were loading our U-Haul, my grandpa died. And my grandpa was my hero. And he was like he was an entrepreneur. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard of American Cowboy magazine, but my grandpa started that magazine, and National Distribution magazine. And he was just successful. He owned a mansion in Wyoming, Buffalo, Wyoming. And all I knew was this, he played pickleball with me. And before pickleball was cool and trendy, we played the YMCA gym. But my grandpa was my hero. And he gave his whole life to us. Like he had four daughters, and then all four daughters had all sons. So these sons were just like his boys, and he just like lived that way. And he's my hero. So my grandpa dies. I was like, what do we do? So we drove back to Boise, threw everything in a U-Haul, and then jumped on an airplane, took everybody back for the funeral. And at the graveside, somebody stood up and started to talk. And my mom stood up and said, we're not going to talk about that. So we're all like, what aren't we going to talk about? And so then the guy keeps talking, and he keeps trying to share. Well, all four sisters stand up and say, you need to stop. You need to sit down. So it was like, okay, this is weird and awkward. So my mom calls a family meeting that night, and this whole time leading up to this moment, my wife and I are like, is redemption always possible? Like in the midst of asking all these questions of ambition and everything, is like, when I've screwed up, when I've made a mess of everything, when I don't do it all right, is redemption actually possible? And so we're sitting there at my house that night, sorry, not my house. We're sitting at my grandpa's house. He had passed, but we're at his house. And my mom calls this family meeting, and my mom says, the story that this man was trying to tell was that your grandpa, in the midst of his ambition and pursuit of being a successful business guy, got involved in some criminal activity and went to prison. And he went to prison when I was 13 years old. This was my mom was saying this when my mom was 13 years old. And we're all just like, why are we just now hearing this story? But I'm not, my mom's thinking like, I hope this doesn't change how you feel about your grandpa. And in my brain, I'm going, I have a million questions because all I know of my grandpa is, how did you get out of prison and then go start a nationally distributed magazine that was super successful and sustain? He built a very sustainable, like awesome life that I loved and I benefited from as a result of his time, his eyes, his presence. He did it all differently. How? Like what changed? Like I've just a million questions and I never got to ask my grandpa. And my mom said, I guess I tell you all of that to tell you that redemption is possible.
No way.
And my mom, my wife and I look at each other, tears in our eyes, bawling our eyes out. And I remember my grandpa always saying, just keep going. Just keep going. And so I guess I would hope that as a part of the enjoy the journey that my person in front of me 3 years from now would say, just keep going. Just, when we're at Zemi and we called for a room bigger and no one shows up, just keep going. Just keep going. When you're trying to build something and you're also trying to be a good dad, just keep going. Be intentional, enjoy the journey, keep going. So, I don't know.
I love that. I have one more question for you, Adam. When is that book going to come out?
We're targeting February. So we're going to try to not compete with the holiday release and do a February release. So,
Same title?
Not sure yet. Might be The Healed Hustle, probably not, but something around there. So,
please let us know.
Yeah.
We'll read it.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time, Adam.
Oh man, this is
has
awesome.
been
I love
enlightening.
learning from you guys and chatting with you guys. This is fun.
That's a wrap.
Thank you. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah.